It's our plan to have our athletic program comparable to USC, to Notre Dame, to Alabama, to anybody.
What's going on, Flame fans? Welcome to another edition of the Sea of Red Football Podcast. I'm Richie Longshots. I'm joined with Christian Taylor, founder, all things the Sea of Red, John Manson. Normally, the way I have started all of our shows, since for some reason they let me host this thing in 2022, I asked, how are we living this Tuesday night, Monday night, Wednesday night, whenever the show was? But I'm not going to ask that because I don't want to speak for everyone, but I will in this situation. We're disappointed. We are coming off of a frustrating loss at home against JMU, and we're all frustrated. The fans, coaches, I'm sure to an extent players as well, but we have another game coming up. So, gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I mean, it's another week. We've been doing this show for a long time, and we haven't had a lot of losses to talk about. So we've been spoiled, honestly. We've had a lot of success in several sports, and obviously football being the main one. So it's not fun necessarily to have to come on and recap losses or a loss, but it's the lot we find ourselves in. And, hey, it is what it is. We'll, there's wins coming. I'm sure of it. It's just a matter of when those wins are coming, right?
In theory. In theory.
Yeah.
CT?
Yeah, we're here. We're present. Whether it's to not be fined or not, regardless, we're here. So that about sums it up. We're here. I don't have much else to say. You said it well. So
yeah, I mean, I know the term spoiled when it gets thrown out causes a lot of people to react in certain ways, but there are people out there that have never experienced Liberty football in this capacity. And that's great. Imagine you're a freshman and, 4 years ago, and now you're a senior or you just graduated. You've never been in this boat. I've been in this boat before. A lot of us have been in this boat before. It's not fun. It's not a life sentence. And that's the beauty of college football is you can have a down stretch and turn things around. You can have a down season and turn things around next year. I know we'll bring up the Florida State comparison, Miami kind of turning things around. So it's not a death sentence. Like I said, I'm not going to treat it as such. It's not a life sentence, but yeah. Kathy said it best, that was before my time, but we've seen some dark days before, but we believe, and at the end of the day, we still root for the Flames. We want Liberty to be successful. I hope that's the case for everyone out there as well, because ultimately that's what makes college football fun is rooting for your alma mater, rooting for the team that you support. And right now it is definitely one of the more disappointing, frustrating times to be a fan of Liberty football. But win or lose, we will always provide coverage, a place to talk about what's going on, to share opinions, share our thoughts, share our hopes, and all that. We're going to do that again tonight. We'll talk about JMU. We'll talk about upcoming game with Old Dominion. We'll get to hear from player Jason Porter, hear some stuff from the fans. So,
Richie, one good thing that sometimes we need to be reminded of in losing is it is in the losing. Sometimes we remember how good it is when we're winning. and it can be easy to take those good times, those mountaintop moments for granted. And sometimes when you're knocked back on your heels or knocked back on your feet a little bit, then you can be reminded of, man, those were some good times, and I want to get back to those good times and do what you got to do to get back to those good times. And we're talking about football, right? But you can use that for anything in life. We all get knocked down at times in life, and it's how we respond in those moments that define you.
Yeah, makes you kind of appreciate, I think, a little bit, taking in perspective what that run that we've been on and those experiences that we've had over the last few years, winning a conference championship, going to the Fiesta Bowl, success on the field, and all of that. But one of the things that I know that can cheer me up, even when I'm feeling down, and that's a great little video about one of my favorite cities, Leesburg, Florida.
It's real Florida. It's old Florida, and it's close to all of the Central Florida attractions. Crystal clear natural springs in one of the largest chain of lakes. The beautiful lakefront city of Leesburg offers the best in outdoor adventures, fishing, and quaint shops and restaurants on historic downtown Main Street. Come visit and see how welcoming a hometown city feels. Experience Leesburg the way Florida is meant to be.
If you're new around here, you may wonder what is with Leesburg, Florida. But Leesburg, Florida is a big Liberty fan. They are big Liberty fans, big Liberty softball fans. Coach Dot Richardson takes the team down to Leesburg just about every year. They've been the last couple of years and playing a preseason tournament. Haven't seen the schedule yet this year. I'm sure they'll be heading back again. But that's where that kind of stems from if you're new and wondering what that's all about. But yeah, as you can see, if you're watching us live here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, we are joined now by Jason Porter and Liberty tight end Jacob Jenkins. Jacob, I'll start with you. How are things going for you? You guys, as I'm sure you heard a little bit, it's disappointing to come off 3 straight losses, not something Liberty's experienced at all during your tenure and not much at all in the FBS era either. How are things going for you and the rest of the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always disappointing, frustrating as always. We feel the same. A lot of fans feel is just the frustration and disappointment because obviously every year in fall camp, every team wants to win, every team expects to win, and every team feels good about what they got. And the good thing for us, I think we still believe that, and we still think, everything's ahead of us. Conference championship game still ahead of us. Like there's business to handle, and I think that keeps us positive in all this. And also just, JMU was a good team, and we played them well. Like when Vasco was playing, and like we were in the fight. And I think we looked the best we had in a long time, and the scoreboard doesn't really reflect that. But I think we were playing good ball, and it started to click for us. Just disappointing with quarterback situation. But I mean, the locker room's good. We're excited still. I mean, ODU is a good quality opponent that can spark something in the rest of our season. So we're looking forward to that one and see what we can do.
Jacob, a little bit of tale of two halves against JMU. 10-10 at halftime, and you guys went strutting in the locker room, feeling pretty good, I would assume, aside from not knowing how Vasco was going to turn out as he was being evaluated. And then obviously the script flipped 21-3 there in the second half, being outscored. But did they, kind of a two-part question, did they do some adjustments, JMU, make some adjustments defensively to kind of change that momentum for you guys in the second half?
I think we liked what we had for game prep and the plays we were running. I think a lot of it involved Vasco being Vasco too in that. And so it kind of took a big chunk of what we had dialed up and what we were hoping to get, kind of had to change and adjust, which is something, you got to be able to step up and adjust. And whether it's quarterback play from the backups being great or it's other positions stepping up and kind of taking care of that and helping the quarterback out, and we just it wasn't necessarily, I would say, JMU, but we didn't make plays when we had the opportunity to. I mean, we got first drive out of halftime. We drove it all the way downfield, had opportunity. We're in the red zone, and we got a holding, and now we're back. And now backup quarterback. Now you're in a tougher situation. Now you're forcing them to get the ball out. Like, can we throw the like? We're gonna have to call a shot, or maybe. So now we're just playing mind games almost from an offensive side, and we had to settle for a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown. And then now we got this momentum. Quarterback's got confidence, so let's go do it again. That kind of thing. So, I mean, it's just like Coach Chadwell said, it's just coming down to making the plays when we need to make the plays, and we just didn't do that. But, we live and we learn and try and figure it out for ODU.
Jacob, tell us a little bit about Michael Merdinger and Ethan Houck. These are a couple guys that probably a lot of the fan base is not too overly familiar with. Both new to the team, came in the spring, and were kind of battling in the quarterback competition and found themselves, third and fourth on the depth chart. But obviously a couple injuries in front of them, and they got thrown into action Saturday against JMU. So tell us a little bit about them. What's something, not maybe, if you want to talk about their play, but just about them as young men and teammates.
Yeah, I mean, I love them both. They're both great guys. Mike Murr, he's a he's a good leader. He's on our Unity Council as a whatever. Like, we don't really see string, but it's quarterback backup. He's on our Unity Council. Like, that's something that speaks for his character and who he is. He attacks every day like he's the starting quarterback, which is good, and I think will prepare him for this role and the situation he finds himself in. And then Ethan Houck, he's a good kid. He is really close to Ethan Basco and kind of learning under him. So, I mean, I think he's going to be a great player for Liberty one day, and he's a freak athlete, great guy. And, so, I mean, both of them, I think, are going to be able to make plays and help us win. So it's just a matter of putting the puzzle together and, letting it ride.
Yeah, Jake, one of the things that we talked about during the broadcast when Merdinger had to come in for Vasco is just the idea that it can't all be on the new quarterback, whoever that is. Everything's still got to execute, and you guys still have to do X's and O's, so to speak. And so going into the ODU game, tall opponent again. They're putting up about 37 points a game, 460 yards a game offensively, so there's a potent offensive attack. But defensively, they're giving up almost 390 yards a game.
Mm-hmm.
So they're giving up some yardage as well. What kind of things have you guys seen already? What are some of the matchups that you're excited about?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to be able to run the ball. I think that's big. That's a way you give a quarterback confidence, is moving the ball through the run game, and it helps free up some other pass game stuff. They play a little different defense than we've seen in the past. Like, they play a robber, so they put bigger body out and put another kind of safety body in. So just managing that and seeing what works once we get in the game, and seeing what they're going to give us also to a picture, because we're a team that runs triple option and not a lot of other teams run it. So sometimes our pictures that we're trying to see, we got to wait till in-time game, like how are they going to line up to this formation kind of thing. So I think it's a lot of that. But, I mean, the door's open. The offense is really good for ODU, so defense, but I think our defense has got it, and I think they can handle it. So that will be good. And then just offense, we got to execute. I mean, that's the name of the game for us right now is what are we going to do to put ourselves in good positions, and how are we going to capitalize on good positions. So that's what we got to figure out, and that's what we got to do. They're a good team. Like, they played quality opponents. They played Indiana and Virginia Tech this year. We've seen the D coordinator in the past. He hadn't changed. He's been the same one we played in previous years. So I think, we know what to do. We got to execute the plays and trust what coaches put in, and, just at the end of the day, make ball plays.
Visiting here with Liberty tight end Jacob Jenkins. And this portion of the podcast is brought to you by RT Rogers, Liberty alums that do a great job supporting the Flames and this team, this program, and this podcast as well, too. Jacob, could you tell us a little bit more about RT Rogers and who they are and how they can help our listeners?
Yeah, so for over 50 years, our family-owned and operated oil company has been powering homes, farms, and businesses in our community. Whether you need residential or commercial propane and heating oil, generators, or expert service, we've got you covered. We also offer top-quality commercial and agricultural fuel tanks, lubricants, and equipment, plus wholesale opportunities that help your business grow. Trust the experience and dedication that only a family business can deliver. Call us today and experience the difference.
Jacob, appreciate you your time joining us every other week, and obviously Eli as well too. It's been good to see you back out on the field the last few weeks, and look forward to following you guys down in Norfolk on Saturday as Flames try to bounce back, get back in the win column. It only takes one win to start a winning streak, and we look forward to cheering you guys on Saturday. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate it.
Thanks, JJ.
JP, tell me a little bit about, I know you do residential real estate, but commercial real estate, is that a thing that you dabble in as well too? And what are some things we need to look for if we're interested in that side of the real estate spectrum?
Absolutely. I should do my Richie Longshots clap here about that. Yeah, I absolutely love commercial real estate. I'm about 60-40 residential commercial, but commercial is definitely one of my things as well. I really enjoy it. And I thought we'd kind of switch gears just a little bit, because I know maybe sometimes people are looking at a commercial space for their office or something along those lines, and a lot of nuances with commercial real estate. But one of the things that we get asked quite a bit just in regards to that is, if I find that office space, if I find that spot for my business or whatever the case may be, what does the construction look like in that space, or what's called the build out? And really what that comes down to is the negotiation with the landlord. And that's obviously where I would come in, helping somebody to write a lease. But what's great about that is a lot of times you'll see that term build to suit. And really what that means is when John Manson wants to open up the Sea or Red office, and we find that perfect office space, we go in and we talk to the landlord about, hey, we want some walls moved, or we want some different flooring, or we want some pretty sweet lighting to make us look good on the podcast. A lot of those things go into that negotiation for commercial space, but a lot of fun walking through that. And it's an exciting time too with your commercial business and commercial real estate. So be glad to answer any questions and help folks out if they have any questions. And my contact information is right here on the screen.
Awesome. Thanks, JP. Look forward to seeing you down in the 757.
Yes, sir. Thanks, John.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jason Porter. I'm with Legacy Realty and Development, and it's been a great partnership here with Sea of Red lately. I was with Liberty Athletics as the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Medicine, so took care of all of the healthcare needs and coordinated that with a fantastic staff at Liberty in the athletic department, of course, for about 5 or 6 years, and then moved into real estate full-time and with Legacy Realty and Development. And it's just been a great pleasure to continue to stay connected with my Liberty University family and the athletics family as well. Been enjoying serving them. A lot of the graduate assistants and some of the staff that I hired has come back now and has been using me for residential services, which I really appreciate. But certainly do residential real estate as far as buying and selling of homes, of course. And then also we have a strong commercial presence as well. So commercial real estate, obviously a very, very different animal than is residential. But whether it's buying and selling commercial properties or just the leasing of properties, we can help with that as well. So it's been a great opportunity to service our commercial clients as well. And then certainly on the investment front too, a number of folks who have discovered the power of passive income through real estate and investing in real estate with rental properties or fix and flips, those kind of things. And so great joy to serve my clients in that capacity as well. The other thing that I would add too is just a very, very full Rolodex at this point of contractors and subs and just different professional contacts that I've made through the years. So if I can ever provide any of those folks to you when all of a sudden you need a plumber or an electrician or a contractor to build your deck, whatever, I'd certainly be glad to give you access to that Rolodex and those references as well. Because a lot of times it's not exactly who you know, it's who you know that knows how to do the job well. And so I would be glad to provide those services for you as well. So love Flames Nation, love taking care of my Liberty family. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, my contact information is all right here on the screen. And I would love to be a service to you and yours. Thanks so much.
Gotta love Jason Porter rocking the old school Liberty logo.
Yeah.
With the shirt, I was like, oh, old school right there. You know, those are some times. Also love the idea of in a Sea of Red office.
That'll be the day.
You never know. So
sounds like it's around the corner, John. So
That'll be the day. That'll be the day.
So always great to hear the insight from Jason Porter and a player, alternates every week. I thought they said some good things. We'll definitely talk about that now. So let's jump into it, rip the Band-Aid off. JMU, it really was a tale of two halves. There's a bit of a good just vibe in the air, the energy. It looked like a great crowd. They had said that they were going to turn the stadium purple, and then that was far from the truth. But you don't get a win for that. You don't get a win for having a good half. It is a 4-quarter football game. And, you definitely could tell the difference when Vasco went down. And he didn't put up great numbers. If you didn't watch the game, you just look at the box score. It doesn't show kind of what he did on the field. There was definitely some progress. I think a little bit more than what we've seen in the last few weeks. But, the injury is unfortunate, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, he had 3 really good drives. He led 3 really good drives, starting with the first one, picking up a lot of yardage on the ground. I don't think they were necessarily all designed run plays for the quarterback, but he took advantage of what the defense gave him. Led us down to a field goal, and then the second drive got a first down or 2, and then had to punt, and then third drive was a touchdown. So, I mean, the offense was doing really good against JMU. Was just a really good defense. I mean, they may be the best defense we play all year. They're top 10 in the country, and certainly one of the top in the G5. So things were going pretty well for the offense and for Vasco. And obviously, you look at his passing numbers; they're 4 for 10, doesn't get the job done really any night, unless you're the Jack State offense against the Liberty run defense, but that's another story. So what really kind of it flipped right there at the end, the last 5 minutes. I remember I texted you guys when we went up 10-3, it was 5 minutes left in the first half. I was like, we got to win these last 5 minutes of the first half. And I think, Richie, you replied saying, I'll take 0-0. And I was like, 0-0 in these last 5 minutes is a win in my book. And unfortunately, the defense allowed a score. And it also kind of started to unravel at that point in time. Like, if you were able to get a stop there, you really pick up the momentum, because now you got the ball with a touchdown lead. And you also have to remember that drive that Vasco got hurt. Not that he wouldn't have gotten hurt anyways, but it was kind of that weird under 2 minute time where it's like, do I run the clock out and just go into halftime 10-10, or do I try to move the ball and pick up some yards? So we were kind of caught between those two different things, which sometimes it's hard to figure that out. So again, not to say he wouldn't have gotten hurt. He did get hurt, so it is what it is. But that was the most disappointing thing for me from the defensive side, is not getting that stop then, and then out of the second half when the 2 quarterbacks came out, Merdinger and Houck, they kind of caught JMU off guard and let us down to a field goal there. And then, we took the lead at 13-10 and again, and then the defense allowed another touchdown drive. So those 2 drives really took away any momentum that the offense had built, and, put it back in JMU's side. And once you got down, against a good defense and your technically 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks, it was just too much for us to overcome.
Yeah, I think going back to Vasco, and obviously we only saw him for a half, so there's more game to talk about. But I think there was a chip on his shoulder as well, just in terms of he's played JMU a couple times in his career so far. Both times the game results did not go well, and I think there was something there that he was using that as some additional motivation. No, there's lots of, not saying he was looking online, but there's lots of JMU fans saying like, oh, look what this guy has done against us. Like, no problem, we're going to be good. And I really do feel like, he knew that, and he had something to prove. And even a couple of times, like on the sidelines, it just looked like he had a look in his eye, like, I'm going to get the job done today. So again, doesn't necessarily show it in the box score, but it was promising. It was hope for us in that first half. It was like, hey, this is better than what we've seen the past couple of weeks. Like, let's latch on to this in this important game. So the only con I'll say, like, to that first half, and again, we can continue on from there, was something that we saw continue on through the rest of the game, and it was the struggles with third down and getting into 3rd and longs and or just not being able to convert on third down. Felt like that was a struggle in the first half, and something that we saw continually throughout the game that was definitely one of the keys to, hey, this might not be sustainable for the full game if we keep this up.
Yeah, another positive, I'm going to not sit here and talk all positive, but great to see some field goals go through. Definitely a nice, all right, maybe Billingsley's locked in. That might be one less thing that we have to worry about. But it was a comment I saw earlier, just it's offensive line play. And it's continuing to be, I know there's been some issues, people coming in, but it's a glaring issue that you even look back to pre-Jamie Chadwell in Malik's, I think it was Malik's last season here, he was running for his life. There was just the offensive line play drives so much of football, and it's as cliche as it is, when that's not there, you're not able to run the ball. You don't have the time to throw the ball. You have a quarterback that's running for his life. So I think one of the biggest glaring issues that we've seen so far this year. It's one of those things that, hopefully over time, you get the right people in the right spots, it can improve, but definitely a tale of two halves. It was, John said, I was like, I'll take 0-0, but 10-3, I have no problem with Chadwell going for it as well, by the way, in that 2-minute offense. Because to me, you even get a field goal there, it's 13-3, you're going into half and you're getting the ball. So I'm fine with that there. It's, the injury, it's coulda, shoulda, woulda, but it is what it is. And JMU's a good team. It's not, this isn't like kind of losing a Bowling Green where we were expected to win. We were favorites to win. We were a little more than a touchdown underdog, so not an excuse, but it's a tough situation.
Yeah,
John.
I think that's sorry, CT. I just wanted to chime in there and say that's one of the most disappointing things so far through the first 4 games, which, we are a third of the season into the season, a third of the way into the season. And but that's one of the disappointing things I've had is both the offensive line and defensive line play. Mm-hmm. Feels like certainly against JMU, they were just flat out better than us in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Jack State, there were moments where they kind of just pushed us around as they wanted to. And then even the Bowling Green game, like we did not assert our dominance in that game, assert our will in that game as well either. So, it is what it is. I did want to show this comment here. I thought it was kind of funny from Charlie. I still believe in our boys. Just wondering, is there a number of losses where we pivot to the ASOR volleyball show? Shout out to volleyball.
Shout out volleyball. Yeah.
We may quickly become a volleyball school. We're 12-1, won 3 preseason tournaments, and conference play starts this week. So they're at home this weekend too. So if you're in the Lynchburg area, come out and support them. But shout out volleyball.
New coach,
some power
first year
as well.
Yeah.
Houston and Rutgers. It's a nice positive going on in the fall. Do we have a QB that can pitch? They mean pitch in baseball, because I'm sure they could use a pitcher, but I don't know what they mean by that. But
I've actually got I did some research earlier this week, and it'll come out in our Liberty Football Notebook we do each week in the next day or two on like our struggles in the running game this year. And one of those factors I looked at was a time of possession. Our time of possession that we've had, that we've averaged over the last 3 seasons has steadily decreased. And I think that kind of plays into the offensive line play and our inability to run the ball effectively. In addition to our time of possession decreasing each year of the last 3 seasons, also our yards per carry has decreased. As well as our rushing yards per game. So that's something that, I like to, you heard Jacob Jenkins talk about it a minute ago, is you got to get back to running the ball. But do we have the personnel that can just go out and dominate the other team and run the ball down their throats like we did in 2023 and even some last year?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I know we'll talk about this continually throughout the show, but with the quarterback situation up in the air, just want to hit on that second half when we brought in Merdinger and Hauk. One person I saw asked, talking about both of them, and we saw both quarterbacks on that same drive kind of switching in and out, and they said it felt odd to them. They're basically, I think they're asking like, hey, what did that accomplish? Was it kind of felt like it prevented one of the quarterbacks from getting in a rhythm? So, John, I wanted to get your thoughts there on kind of what you saw at the game, what you think maybe the reasoning was there. And yeah, I know we'll continue to talk about the quarterback situation moving forward as well.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I didn't expect it to happen. I mean, you heard in the preseason, Coach Chadwell talk about Merdinger and how he was confident in him and how he thought we could win games behind him if need be. And we saw some flashes of him in scrimmages and things in the preseason where, I mean, he looked good. But that's obviously different than when you're out there facing live bullets. So I was a little surprised by that. I think. And we also heard Jacob Jenkins talk a little bit about it here tonight about how Vasco was such a huge part of the game plan. And I think what he meant by that is like his running ability to, move the ball with his legs. We saw some design runs, and I don't know if that's necessarily Merdinger's game. And it certainly seemed to be more of Hauk's game, at least at this point in both of their careers. And I don't know if, like, in the middle of a game, when you go into the locker room and at halftime and realize, okay, Vasco's not going to play the rest of the game, we're going to these guys or to this guy, Merdinger. It's like, well, he doesn't, he hasn't practiced, doesn't have enough game reps in doing some of the packages we had installed for this week in the quarterback run game. So Hauk does have that ability and does have that experience. So let's kind of take a little bit of the burden off of Merdinger and give some of it to Hauk. That's kind of the way I dissected that. I will be interested to see this week, which we don't know that Vasco's not going to play. I was surprised to see that he was out there Tuesday morning going, limited practice. Like, he was throwing the football, and like, if you didn't know, you wouldn't have even known he had gotten injured. So he looked good, and maybe he plays. I'm assuming he probably won't. But when you have a whole week of prep for whoever the guy's going to be, whether it's Merdinger or Vasco or Hauk or even Bradford, is do you go to just the one guy? Because we talked about it last week about JMU. Is like, I just don't think when you rotate two quarterbacks, that's a good plan. So it'll be interesting to see what the plan is this week.
Yeah, I agree. So we're going to buy some stock. We're going to sell some stock. We're going to talk about things that we're going to buy, things we're going to sell. What are we thinking long term for Liberty football? All right, Flame Stockwatch. Who wants to kick it off?
I guess I'll go first. And when you're buying or selling investments or stocks, what do they always say, right? Is you want to buy low and sell high. Well, after a 1-3 start, our bowl hopes are about as low as they can get. Like, I'm putting out the article again this week, like I do every week, about Liberty's bowl projections, and about half of those projections do not have Liberty included in them. So that's tough to digest and come to terms with. But I'm holding Liberty's bowl hopes for now. I don't want to sell them because I'd be selling low. I certainly think there is a path for us to get to 6 wins and to a bowl game, which I can't believe we're having this conversation, but we are. And but I do think, and I kind of said this a little bit earlier, but all it takes is one win, right? You get one win, you can turn this thing around. And, like, again, we're 16-point underdogs this week against Old Dominion. So I don't think many of us are expecting to go in there and pull off the win. We can, it wouldn't be the biggest upset ever, so we can do it. But, after that game, we've talked about this before, you got 7 straight games to close out the season that, we can debate, would we be favored or would we not be favored? But I don't think from a talent standpoint we're going to be outmatched in any game the rest of the way. We might get beat. I think we probably will get beat in some games based on what we've seen through the first 4 weeks. But I do think there's a chance. And if you can win a game, like if you come out and get a win at UTEP, then you can start to feel a little bit better. Maybe you can lick a little bit of your wounds and start to move forward and string together some wins and some success. And you got a 3-game homestand in early November. And, so let's not sell our bowl hopes yet. I'm holding on to those for now.
Yeah, that's good. I do think, John, not to jump too far ahead down the road, ahead of the ODU game, but I do think it's something that first conference game back is going to be crucial. Just being like, hey, we're back on our feet. We got to win. We're 1-1 in the conference standings. We can get this moving forward. We can still make a conference championship game. Like, I know that it's something that we're hearing from the players that is still on their radar. Like, hey, we can roll through the conference. So I think that game is pivotal for that. If we lose that first conference game back, like, feels like the wheels could just completely fall off. But I think just that opportunity for a reset is kind of like that last hope that we can hold on to. So I think that'll be about as must win of a game as we can get. I'll go next. I'm going to buy the most hardcore fans, the most dedicated, passionate Liberty fans out there. It's a tough time right now. I mean, we've all said that. We're going to continue to be real about that. Lots of people I'm not even going to call you a fair weather fan or anything like that. Like, I think it's perfectly reasonable to be like, hey, I'm jumping ship right now. Like, this is tough to watch. I don't know if I want to give up a Saturday to go watch a game right now or anything. But there's those fans out there, the Jerry Flinchums of the world, the Queen Cathys of the world, who are still locked in completely. I love my Flames no matter what. And you are the fans that need to lead the charge right now. You are the fans that we need to rally behind. So shout out to y'all. I'm buying stock in you because you, just as much as the players on the field, are going to help turn this thing around. So keep up the good work. Shout out to y'all.
Yeah. And you know what? You can love something, you can support something and still be able to point out its flaws. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it's happens kind of all around us in the world right now, but I don't know if this is a buy or a sell. I think it's a buy. I want to figure out how to buy getting bye weeks before big games like this, like JMU and Old Dominion both getting bye weeks before they play us. That sounds awesome. Like, do we have a bye week? October?
We have almost the entire month of October off.
Yeah, that sounds like last year.
The entire month.
Well, all right. It would have been having a bye week before a big game like that. I'm buying that because that looks pretty great. I guess with JMU next year, we have the entire season. We have the entire off season to be the bye week. So that's what I'm buying.
That's good.
That is a good one, and we've kind of been up against it. Each of these 2 weeks is JMU coming off a bye week before playing us, and now ODU as well. And ODU, it really does not sit well where it falls in on their schedule or our schedule, because they came off that big win over Virginia Tech, and if they were playing us that next week or some other team that next week, you could expect a fall off. Maybe them, it's a letdown game right after that. But having a week off, and they're playing Liberty, who they've lost 4 straight games to, and we frankly have dominated them the last 4 games. They're not going to overlook us, not in the least. So it really falls in a tough spot on their schedule this game. So that's a good one, Richie.
Yeah. So I'll say one thing about the schedule as well, really quickly. And the Kool-Aid jug is getting pretty dry. It's getting pretty empty, but I just poured myself a glass as I heard Richie talk. And so I'll say this real quick. What kind of it felt like started, the switch last year. We had some concerns early on, but what's really felt like started that switch was, the App State game not happening, and then that massive layoff where we had like two games in a month or whatever it was, and no game in like 3 weeks or something insane. So, I'm my Kool-Aid right now is the fact that, hey, we have another stretch where we're not going to have many games coming up in a long period of time. So what if that just turns it all around?
Yeah.
And what started it is what ends it, and we go on a winning streak after that. Exactly.
Reverse the mojo.
So
And
that is my last glass of Kool-Aid. The jug is pretty empty, but that's what I thought of when Richie said that.
And before we jump into talking about Conference USA from last week, that is not me bashing Ian McCaw by any means. He sets a schedule. He doesn't set JMU's schedule. He doesn't set Old Dominion's schedule. Like, that's not a bash whatsoever. Like, I just want to make that clear that he doesn't know what they're like. Can't control that. That's beyond what we can control at Liberty. But as I just alluded to, around the conference, another decent showing for Conference USA.
Yeah, I think Louisiana Tech is the one team that I'll highlight. Is they got a win over Southern Miss. It was 30-20, and this is not the same Southern Miss team you've seen the last few years. They've got new life down there. Is it Charles Huff, the former Marshall coach, is now the head coach down there? And that game wasn't even as close as the final score looks. I mean, they were winning by significantly more than, I think it was 30-10 at one point late in the second half, and ended up 30-20. But La Tech is 3-1 right now. Their only loss came to, was it LSU? Their defense looks really good. And I made the comment earlier about JMU having the toughest defense we'll face all season. Louisiana Tech may be the exception to that. They look like they've got a really good defense. So Louisiana Tech is a team to watch out for. That's a game, we have to go down there and play. And right now we would be an underdog, a significant underdog, I think, in that game. So I said after we played Jack State, I think Jack State's a favorite to get to the conference championship. Right now, I got to say Louisiana Tech, it looks like the top team in the conference. And again, that can change any given week, but they're off to a good start. They dominated New Mexico State last week and followed it up with a win over Southern Miss. And then this week they play at UTEP, so another chance for a conference win for them. They could be 2-0 before we get to October.
Yeah, it feels like it's the last. This last week was the final for Conference USA, where there was no conference matchups. So, to look ahead to this week, shout out there were some wins, but this week we have some. We can start looking at that. All right, conference standing, conference play is picking up before we hit that midweek point. So, interesting to see there are some games coming up. Let me pull that up real quick. La Tech, UTEP, Western Kentucky, Missouri State, and then Middle Tennessee, Kennesaw. So 3 conference games on the radar for this week. I'm excited to get in the conference play. It is not a new season, but it is kind of an opportunity, as we've said so far, to kind of to right the ship and see where it takes us.
Yeah, I think, like I said, La Tech, Delaware also had a nice win over FIU. They're looking pretty good. Kennesaw beat Arkansas State, which, any FBS win for Kennesaw is a monumental win for them at this point in their program. But I do think Kennesaw has shown some life. Like if you remember back week 1, Thursday night or Friday night,
they were the Friday night game
against Wake Forest. Seems like their defense is much improved. Their offense is still trying to play catch up a little bit as they go away from that triple option to more pro style type attack. But they look pretty good. And then Western Kentucky is another team. I'm not sure what happened in their Toledo game. It might have just been a blip as we look back on that. But I think the Western Kentucky at Missouri State game this week is another one to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing with that Kennesaw win, Arkansas State, they haven't been bad either. They, the week before, had a pretty good showing against Iowa State. They kept it close in the fourth quarter. So that was a good win for Kennesaw, like you said. The one thing, again, this isn't to make ourselves feel better, because this is not our standard whatsoever. But rest assured that I would say we're not the worst team in Conference USA. So Sam Houston... I don't even know how to put it, but they were the doormat to help Arch Manning feel a little bit better about himself. So,
slump buster.
If there's one team that we're not that we are better than, it is Sam Houston, and that's not our standard. We're not going to take solace in it, but that is just the facts. So,
unfortunately, we don't play Sam Houston this year. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. So, always fun stuff, monitoring and checking out what's going on around Conference USA. But we have our final non-conference game coming up this Saturday against Old Dominion. Great start to the season for them, going in, beating Virginia Tech, getting Brent Pry, right? I get the Brent Key. Brent Pry, getting Brent Pry fired. Lost to Indiana, who is a wagon. Lost by 2 touchdowns to Indiana. Indiana just steamrolled Illinois. Indiana's quarterback's the Heisman Trophy favorite right now. Now that Mateer's out for 3 weeks, like, imagine saying that to someone 10 years ago, that the Indiana quarterback would be the Heisman Trophy winner. So,
imagine saying that 2 weeks ago or 2 years.
Yeah, it's insane. So, in their loss, that's a quality loss. Again, beating Virginia Tech. Who knows, what Virginia Tech is like, but they have a ton of momentum coming off a bye week. They got some horses, good offensive line, and we're 16-point underdogs. I haven't said that since the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, I think the other thing with ODU, which I just looked up really quickly, their record against Virginia Tech, because I feel like they've done decent against them the past few years, and they have beat them a couple times. They've had an ongoing series. They had beat them a couple times at home, but this was the first time that they won in Blacksburg, which definitely, as you said, was kind of the final straw for Brent Pry. But I think the thing that's frustrating with ODU is it's like, wow, we could get some momentum right now, just in terms of, hey, we could have a rallying point of we are 2 touchdown underdogs. Like, let's rally the troops. Like, let's get ready. Maybe ODU will overlook us or something, but no, we've beaten up on them over and over again. So if anything, they're just more ready than ever to come out and be like, oh, this is our chance to take down this Liberty team. Ricky Ronnie, he's been the head coach there, so he's been on the receiving end of a lot of those losses. So he's going to have those guys fired up. So again, like you said, they're coming off a bye week. It just feels like, in a way, that the hits keep on coming, and it's tough to come up for a breath, because it's like, well, every team wants to beat us. This is every team's kind of like chance and revenge in a way.
Yeah, their offense is really good. Like, they're explosive. They're averaging over 30 points a game. Their offensive line is really good. One of the tops in G5. One of the tops we'll face this season, in my opinion. Got several transfers up front, and some guys that have played a lot of football. They got one guy, I think he's from Fordham. He's on his 7th year playing football, and he's got starts in at least one game in each of those 6 previous years at the FCS level, and now he's starting for ODU. So their offensive line is really good. They've only given up 2 sacks all season. They're one of the tops in the country in that mark. They're also really good in not allowing tackles for loss, which kind of goes hand in hand. They're the only team in all of FBS that has scored a touchdown on every single red zone trip, 10 for 10. Very impressive. And then their quarterback, Colton Joseph, is it's his 2nd year there as far as starting. He's I think a redshirt sophomore and started his career at Old Dominion. So but he's leads the team in rushing and obviously in passing, and he's been very efficient. Throwing for 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, has run the ball 30 times in 3 games with 265 yards and 4 more touchdowns. So he's a dual threat guy and very efficient, like I said. A lot of different receivers. He kind of spreads the ball around too, and they have a few different backs that they're using. So their offense is really good. And their defense seems to be really good in creating havoc as far as sacks, TFLs, and that sort of thing. So we're going to have our work cut out for us this week.
Yeah, I mean, John, you would know better than me. I want to say it was 2018, maybe 2017. We opened up the season against Old Dominion. We were 9.5-point favorites. I distinctly remember that because I had a parlay that I placed. It was very early in the sports betting world, and that was a big leg. I hit a good amount of money, but I remember taking Liberty money line, and they were 9.5, 10.5 point underdog. So
Was
wouldn't
that
be the craziest.
was that the first FBS game?
That was
Yes,
our
it
first
was.
ever FBS game,
With
and
the big delay as well.
Yeah, and we paid them like, was it $1 million to play that game at home? So, anyways, it was a really good game for us under Turner Yale. We dominated on that game, and but yeah.
But you know what? Before we jump into next Flame Up, they have everything to lose. We have very little to lose. If you don't think those fans and those players are thinking about playoffs,
Oh, exactly.
They are in that 5-team range, I think, that are in the playoff mix.
Yeah.
And they're thinking about that, whether or not, anyone would say it or not. That's something that a team like that, coming off a Virginia Tech win, a quality loss to a team that has a great chance of going to the playoffs, if they can handle their business in conference play, they're going to be a team in the playoff mix, maybe more so than Boise State is right now.
I think I saw where they have the third best odds to reach the CFP as a G5 team. I think they're behind Memphis and South Florida. So they've done the work in the non-conference. Obviously, they don't want to stub their toe against Liberty, which can't believe we're talking like that. But that's what we've come to right now. But if they take care of business the rest of the way, and I was watching one of their podcasts earlier, and they were talking about that, and they were also talking about how they want JMU to win out until they play each other, because that could be a really good belt notch in their belt if they can take care of that.
No, agreed. So said it earlier. We're going to jump in. Don't play the video yet, John, because I have to go run and use the bathroom. So you guys get started on next Flame Up, and I will join you shortly.
Well, that chair is empty. Which Richie is now. He's if any of you don't know, his podcast studio has become a nursery, and we may lose him to part of the show later in the season. But as he's
convenient excuse,
right? But as he's taking care of business, we'll start with our next Flame Up, which, I'll be honest, CT, when I was first putting the show doc together this week, I was like, maybe we just delete this segment this week, because it's like
the same exact thing.
Maybe we should just delete the segment, because it's kind of like, how do I pick somebody else to we need the whole team to step up, right? No, we're going to stick to it, stick to the script, and keep moving forward. I chose Darrell Farrar, App State transfer, linebacker. Kind of had a slow start to the season. Didn't play a ton the first week or two, but he's come on here the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he's actually leading the team in tackles. I think he had a career high 10 tackles, I think, last week against James Madison. So he's been really good in run defense, and a physical linebacker that we need. So we need him to continue to take that step forward and help this linebacker crew and help this defense. And against an ODU offense that's, they've seen the script, run the ball against Liberty and keep on running it. And so hopefully Darrell and some of the rest of the defense can step up and at least slow down the ODU rushing attack this week.
Yeah.
He was a guy I did mention earlier in the season. He might have been my first buy stock. I don't know. I said his name earlier because I asked John. I'm like, yeah, this guy good, right? Yes, I lost my podcast space to a nursery. As long as I have my way. Yes, I wash my hands, sicko. I'm anticipating doing some sort of podcast from a hospital at some point. I don't know how, I don't know when. It's not going to go over well, but it's a future me problem. Future Flame Up, I'm going to go with a freshman who we saw is getting some reps with the ones, Jalen Coleman. Jalen Coleman had some explosive plays at the spring game. A lot of people were like, this guy's a freshman. He is built just yoked. Unfortunately, Vaughn Blue sidelined. So hey, let's throw it all. Let's throw it out there. See who sticks. I'm willing to roll the dice on anyone. Bring in Jaden Bradford. Why not? Let's see what happens. Everyone's calling. Let's see what happens. I'm willing to try anything at this point, just to check the box and say that we exhausted all options. So he was a player that I saw. Again, I'm not an X's and O's expert. I'm an eye test guy. This kid passed the eye test. Built, fast, looked very good at the spring game. Was very cool. I actually had to check. I'm like, is this the kid at the spring game? And when I saw the tweets about him as the one, and it was confirmed that yes, it was him.
That's a good one you picked up on, and you mentioned Von Blue. He's dinged up a little bit. Juju Gray was not. I didn't see him at practice today. I hadn't heard anything about an injury. I don't know. Maybe he's dealing with an injury. We'll just have to wait and see Saturday if he makes the trip to Norfolk or not. But Jalen Coleman kind of be that next guy up in the A-back role, and that's something that Coach Chadwell mentioned today in his press conference about needing to step it up. We need to step it up in our ability to gain yards on the perimeter in the run game. So maybe Jalen Coleman can be a guy that takes that next step. But Darrell Farrar, Jalen Coleman, CT, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to maybe not think about the next game. I don't know what the coaching staff are thinking, but in terms of who I see as the next flame up for us long term, I'm going to go Ethan Houck. So I think again, I don't know what's going to happen next week. Maybe it's Vasco back, maybe it's Merdinger, like whatever it may be. But I feel confident from what I've seen so far, not knowing what the transfer portal could hold or anything else like that Ethan Houck should be the next flame for the future at quarterback for us. And my personal opinion is that, hey, like if Vasco can't go or anything like that, no better reps than in-game reps, especially if we can start, getting thrown into the game in the middle of it is a bit of a tough situation. But once you can start, hey, get a week of practice knowing that you're going to be the quarterback or different things, like, hey, those in-game reps are valuable. So I know maybe we want to save him some. We want to make sure he can keep his red shirt, all those kind of things. And those are, of course, valuable. Those are, of course, things that I know the coaching staff has to consider. But whether it's this week or maybe later in the season, if we lose that next conference game or anything, again, don't want to get too far down there. But I think it'd be valuable to play Houck. If you say he's the guy for the future, get him those reps, continue just to allow him learn and prove. Hey, Vasco can be on the sideline saying, hey, here's what you can do better. Like, he's our guy. And so I'm going to put him as next flame up.
I'm sold. Echoing what you said, from coaches and players that, yeah, he is the real deal. I've mentioned it before in my NCAA dynasty. He eventually ends up at Ohio State and wins the Heisman Trophy. So with like a 96 overall. So I don't think anyone from Ohio State is tuning into this show, but if they are, I made that whole thing up. So next flame up. Sorry, we've reached that point it's late September where I'm like peeking over. I got eyes on the Yankee game. So if I'm looking over, just kind of glancing over, but I'm fully paying attention. What's this? Delivery figure, receiver challenge, Charles Jobber, Jeopardy. All right. So we're going to talk about head coach.
Let's dive in
to Jamie Chadwell. We've reached this point, and I love Hugh Freeze. I am a huge Hugh Freeze fan. I think there should be a statue of Hugh Freeze and Malik Willis in front of the stadium. We have reached a point where a lot of fans, and when Hugh Freeze left, he was public enemy number one at Liberty. It was, he only had one good season, and last season was terrible, and all this stuff. And suddenly, Hugh Freeze did no wrong. And I'm living in a crazy world. Like, I'm like, very easy to search people's tweets that are like, Hugh Freeze wasn't the guy. And I'm like, you were bashing Hugh Freeze 6 months ago, saying that he was never going to do anything at Auburn. So we have to remember when Hugh Freeze left, getting Jamie Chadwell was one of the biggest G5 news stories. Like, it was, I had people that don't follow G5 football like, Jamie Chadwell's a huge get for Liberty football. Like, he was the name. He was the getting looks at the P4 level. We were tracking flights in January. Like, Jamie Chadwell is a successful coach at all of the levels that he has had. And you can look at numbers and all of this stuff, but I'm a firm believer in Jamie Chadwell as our head coach. And I'm confident that he can right the ship. I'm sure you'd be the first person to say, yeah, I'm disappointed. We got to figure out a way. And I trust in that. I haven't lost that trust in him the way that other people have. And I think that a rising tide lifts all ships, and it's not helping anything by, we got to fire him, let's buy, like, all this stuff's ridiculous. So I'm a believer. I will always support who the coach is. And I think that's in part of being a fan of a sport is supporting that coach and trusting that they are trying the best. This is their job. Their job is to win football games, and they are going to do what they have to do both during the season and in the off season to ensure that they are in the best position to do that. So there's my Jamie Chadwell. I wouldn't call it a rant. That's just my opinion, and people are going to have different opinions. That's fine. But I think that if he's our head coach, we have to support him and trust. I hate to use a Sixers term, but because it didn't end well, but trust the situation. I'm not going to say the final word. Trust the situation.
John, sorry not to, I feel like I jumped on that real quick right after Richie ended. Kathy's comment there, I disagree with her a little bit that he's never won the big game before. I think back to the Coastal team and like that BYU game specifically, that was a massive game. With College game day in town, the switch from Liberty, with all the hype around their team, that was a huge game that they came out and won. And then you think about even at Liberty, like, yes, I know we lost the Oregon game, and I know that's big in people's head probably, but you think about like conference championship game, our first one at the FBS level, with Diego Pavia, and we've seen what he's gone on and do. That was a huge game. And so, like, I respectfully, I do think he's won big games. Yes, there's been big games that he's lost as well, but I don't think it's something that he can't win the big game. So I just wanted to jump in and say that when I saw that comment.
And John, before you jump in, there was no Group of 5 team that was beating Oregon on New Year's Day 2024
without any of their guys opting out.
No one opted. You could have taken an all-star team of G5 players and not beaten Oregon. So I have no fault for anyone for that game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in the new playoff structure with 12 teams, Oregon's obviously in the playoffs. They were the first team left out that year. Yeah. And they could have won the national championship in this new format. I mean, we saw what Notre Dame did last year, making it all the way to the championship game. So they were really good. I think the only team they lost to all year was Washington, and they lost to them twice.
And Washington went to the national championship game that year.
Obviously, right? Washington was really good. So, Richie, you kind of, you stole a lot of the words out of my mouth that I was prepared to say. I don't think I've ever said that before, but
thank you.
But you did. And we talked about it this week and decided, we wanted to have this conversation just because it's gotten, there's a ton of talk on social media about this, and it's kind of like the elephant in the room, and the conversation needs to be had. My first thought is like some of the conversations, some of the comments I've seen online are just ridiculous. But at the same time, I'm glad that we have that level of a passionate fan base, right? I'm glad that we have enough people out there that care this much about the program. It's easy for me to sit here and say, you shouldn't say that. That's a bad take and blah, blah, blah. But this is what we want. We want to have an engaged, passionate fan base that cares. And I think they do, by and large, care. I don't always agree with some of the things that people say, but that's fine. People don't agree with things that I say and that I do, and that's part of it. But one thing I'll say, what I wanted to say is kind of like with Jamie Chadwell, you can't just look in a vacuum with what he's done at Liberty in his 3 years, right? You have to step back and look at who is Jamie Chadwell, like what is his resume that brought him to where he's at today, right? It's very it's a huge factor in this conversation, right? Because his success previously is why we hired him. Mm-hmm. So you can go back and look at what he's done, and he's won, like you said, Rich, he's won everywhere he's been. He was at Charleston Southern, one of the lowest funded Division I FCS teams in all of college football. We used to play them every year. They're one of our maybe the most common team we played the most in our history was Charleston Southern. So if you were around when we were in the Big South, I know both of you guys were, but I'm talking to our listeners and followers. If you're around then, like you knew, the poverty, quote unquote, program that Charleston Southern was. I think they got lights on their football field when Jamie Chadwell was a coach. Like that's the level of funding we're talking about. He built Charleston Southern into a team that passed Liberty in the Big South. They beat us twice in a row with Jamie Chadwell as their head coach. They made it to, under Coach Chadwell, to more FCS playoffs than Liberty ever made. And this started happening as we were kind of making the move out of the Big South and FCS into the FBS. So he got it done there. He got it done at Coastal Carolina, one of the best jobs of anybody in the G5. If you go back and look at what he did in 2020, you mentioned his college game day appearance, beating BYU that year. They were top 10 in the country. People were talking about them should have been in a college football playoff for the season they had, undefeated until they met us and we beat them, right, with Malik Willis and Coach Freeze. And they still ended up the season ranked in the top 15, maybe the top 12. And then also in 2021 and 2022, he was right there at the top of the Sun Belt, which if you look, the Sun Belt, everybody says the Sun Belt's better than Conference USA, and rightly so. So he's been competitive at the level we're currently at, even slightly higher than the level we're at. Then he comes to Liberty, and we have arguably our best season ever. You could debate if the 2020 team was better, but going undefeated, like you can sit here and say, like, you should, the schedule was so weak, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it was, but we still won all the games on the schedule. Like you have to go out and win every week. So he got the job done that year. And I've also, a lot of the conversation around that team now is he did it with all of Hugh Freeze's players. If you go back to that year, the main talking points we had going into the season was first, it's Jamie Chadwell's first year and our first year in Conference USA. But then the next thing we always said was there's greater than 50% roster turnover. Mm-hmm. So that's what we were talking about. So there was half of that team was brought in by Coach Chadwell. He brought in Quentin Cooley that led the nation's top rushing offense. That was one of the top 5 rushing offenses last year. So he brought in that Cooley. He brought in some of these offensive linemen that have since transferred out and are at P4 schools. So he's brought in some good talent as well too. So you can't exclude him from that. So with that being said, should he be on the hot seat? No, he should not be on the hot seat. He is not on the hot seat. Like I can guarantee you he's not. Like, and also kind of like Richie said is like, he is disappointed that we're 1-3, probably more so than any one of us out here talking. Like this is this is his job. He lives, eats, and sleeps this stuff, and maybe a lot of lack of sleep going on right now for him, I'm sure. And yes, he's well funded and well paid to do this job, but he's got a bunch of buffoons like us sitting around talking about what he's doing and critiquing his job all the time. So so yes, he deserves to be talked about, and for us to have this conversation. I understand, and it's okay to be disappointed. I know Ian McCall would be disappointed and is disappointed. So, so to say all that stuff, he is not on the hot seat. He's not going to be fired this year. Like, if we get to 6 wins this year, there is 0% chance that he's fired. 0. Now, if we don't win another game this year, that's another conversation. Do I think we're not going to win another game this year? No. Do I think we're going to win several more games this year? Yes, I do. But we have to wait and see how the season plays out. Now, having said that, I think if we end up this year, 6-6, 7-5, which I think is kind of what we're trending towards, and it might be a stretch to get to 6 or 7 wins, honestly, if we're honest about it. But if that's what we end up at, then next year becomes very important for Coach Chadwell. Like, it's a very, very important season. I'm not going to say he's on the hot seat going into the year and he has to win X number of games. Like, let's wait and see how this season plays out. But today, he is not on the hot seat. Does he need to make changes and staffing changes and all these comments that I see? Sure, those conversations need to be had. We don't need to have them today. There's no need in having – we've said this before. There's no need in making coaching staff changes week 4, week 5. Like, what does that prove? It doesn't prove anything. And we're not going to fire Coach Chadwell week 4, week 5, week 6. We're not going to do it. I mean, unless there's some type of off the field incident that comes up that would change that. But for the play on the field, like, he's going to be here through the end of the season. And we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. And like I said, if we get to 6 or 7 wins, there's 0% chance he gets fired this year. And then, we can talk at the end of the year and going into next year about what that means for next season. But, I started on a little bit of a rant, but that's kind of what I feel, what I think. And, I appreciate everyone's comments and their opinions and their thoughts. And you may be out on Coach Chadwell, and you may not get back on the I'm bought into Coach Chadwell train, and that's fine. It's understandable. I can understand it because if you look at it, like, we were 13-1, and then we went to 8-4, and now it looks like we're not going to get to 8-4. So it does look like we're going backwards. So it's not a good thought. It's not a good trend. But at the same time, Coach Chadwell has proven at multiple places that he's a good coach. He's proven, we were trying our best to keep him away from Mississippi State a year or 2 ago, right? Virginia Tech could come into play. I don't think it will. West Virginia was another one last year that was trying to get him.
UCF.
Yeah. There's been a lot of schools that have tried to get him, and so he's a good coach. He's got to figure it out. Like, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat things. Like, he's got to figure it out. He would say in his heart of hearts, I'm sure he's saying it now, he's trying to figure out what's gone wrong. Why are we 4-7 in our last 11? Why are we 1-3 this season? Why are we 0-4 against the spread? Which I know you can sit here and say, against the spread doesn't matter much, but it does, because that's your expectations. You're not meeting your expectations. And when it's that drastic of a record, then it's worth talking about. But yeah, I believe Coach Chadwell will be able to figure it out and get this thing turned around. I don't know if that's going to be this year. I hope it is. We still got 7 conference games in front of us, and I think we have the ability to win all 7 of those games and get back to conference championship game. I wouldn't predict that today, but so that's kind of where I feel.
That was good, John. Yeah. I don't have a ton more. I'm going to add a couple more things. I'll try to keep it short. But I think it's first, just to be clear, like, just because we all are saying, not to jump ahead to what I'm going to say, but I think we're all saying, like, yes, he's not on the hot seat, but that does not mean that there's not issues that we see with the coaching or anything. It can be both at the same time. That, hey, he's not on the hot seat, and there's issues that probably stem from all parts of the coaching staff, and that ultimately the buck stops with him. So I just want to make that clear. Like, we're not giving a pass just because we're not team him getting fired right now or anything like that. The one thing that I brought up, and I brought up to both of y'all, and I think it's a good point. I don't know if y'all think it's a good point, but I do think it is I looked at Florida State with Mike Norvell, and it's something that he's been on a couple different stops. He's been a pretty decent coach. And at Florida State, he built up that program for a couple of years. And then in 23, in the same year that we went to the Fiesta Bowl, or was that the year before? No, it was the year before.
That was that year.
Okay, math. Yeah, there we go. He went 13-1 as well. He lost his quarterback right at the end of the season, which ended up derailing their season and the playoffs and everything like that. They didn't make the playoffs regardless. So they went 13-1, lost one game in the season, lost their bowl game. It just kind of fell apart at the end. And then last season, he went 2-10, and it was horrific. So many people wanted him fired. They were like, what are we doing here? And there was the factor that I think probably went into him not getting fired of the buyout and different things at Florida State, and it being a huge number, and them not having money and saving up for this new NIL era and multiple different factors. But the point remains that I think is valid here as well, is that he kind of earned himself a year because of that season that he had. And that if they got kind of gypped out of the playoffs in a way, and again, that's another debate, but now this year, because they didn't fire him, they're off to 3-0 start. They beat Alabama. They're in the top 10 in the nation. And they so easily could have fired him and probably had to do a complete do-over and start a restart, and they would not be in that place right now today. And so I think the same thing applies with Jamie Chadwell, that, hey, we got to the Fiesta Bowl. We had an amazing undefeated season. And that Fiesta Bowl was basically the equivalent of making the playoff, in terms of what it looks like now, in terms of what that would look like if you were a P4 team, all those kind of things. So yes, I know we did last year have a little bit of a disappointing season. I don't think that was a disaster of a season. I don't think that was Jamie Chadwell's one bad season that he gets or anything. That was just a bit of a down year coming off of insanely high expectations because of their season before. So I think Chadwell absolutely gets a season of, hey, he's earned it at this point. Even if we win 2-3 games, which I don't think is going to be the case, but even if we do, he's earned another season to get the ship right. And if we're sitting here next year and talking about the same thing, then it starts being a different conversation. But I really think at this point that he's earned that, and it'd be very silly and foolish for our program long-term to fire a coach right now. Which I think we can talk about long-term ramifications more here in a minute when we get to some questions and stuff. But yeah, that's some of my thoughts.
Perfect segue. Also, CT, great haircut.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's hear from the fans. We tweeted out. It's always a mixed bag of what could it be?
Yeah. It was definitely a mixed bag, and it's definitely getting more and more not mixed bag of negative and not much positive. But that being the case, we've hit on some of the things already, so we won't hit on some of them. But right away, just one thing that we've hit on lightly, but just maybe hit on for another second. Defensive line and offensive line both seem terrible. Was just a straight up thought.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier, but I hate to be so strong and harsh and using words like terrible, but they have been below average and not good. And I think with the offensive line, like the first 3 games, we had a new starting 5 each of those 3 games on the offensive line, and then these last 2, James Madison, Bowling Green, we've stuck to the same 5. And now those 5 have played the entire game. I don't know if that's a recipe for success moving forward. Also, Trey Badowski, who's our starting left tackle, has been injured and looks like he's going to miss again this week. So that's a big miss. But, continuity, that you always hear people talk about continuity on the offensive line. So hopefully now that we're settled into who our 5 guys are that we're playing every week, we can, build some of that continuity and hopefully see some improvement moving forward. The defensive line is a little bit of a disappointment. I feel like we've missed on some of these portal ads we've had at that position this year and last. We did keep Bryce Dixon, and he was coming off an injury in training camp, so he's a little bit of a slow start, but he's gotten better these last couple of weeks. CJ Bazile has been our top-rated defensive lineman by PFF so far this season, but he's been banged up, so we need him to get back to full speed, which he did get back in the game. So, but yeah, I agree. The offensive line, defensive line have certainly been underwhelming.
Yeah, most definitely. I see one thing. I'm going to read it, and we'll keep on moving on. I feel like we've hit on it pretty good, but the complete inability to move the ball on offense or stop the run on defense is getting tiresome. But on the bright side, we made 2 field goals. So Richie mentioned that earlier. Shout out Jay Billingsley.
Bright side.
I think talking about schedule really quickly. Obviously, we're powerless against solid run-heavy defenses. Who's left in our schedule that are solid run-heavy teams? Because we're obviously fighting for bowl eligibility and need to beat up on Conference USA to do that.
Yeah, I'd have to look at everybody's makeup and see. I don't know off the top of my head. I know Old Dominion is good in the run game, so it's going to be a tough matchup for us. Louisiana Tech has kind of struggled on offense. They've gone through – they're up to their 3rd quarterback now. So they're typically been an air raid offense under Sonny Cumbie. So that's not typically their game. Delaware, I don't recall. Delaware and Missouri State both have veteran quarterbacks. They've been able to pass the ball, has some success there. I don't think there's another running attack like as good as ODU or Jack State on our schedule. Jack State is top 5 in the country. They were top 5 in the country last year in rushing. They're top 5 again this year. I think that running back is a Cam Cook. I think he's the top running back in this entire conference.
Yeah. No, I think I saw he was the highest rated something, or they have the highest rated something, offensive line or something, Jacksonville State. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not going to talk X's and O's. Also, the Yankees are in the bottom of the ninth, so carry on.
Sounds good. A lot of mixed bag as well in terms of people saying, hey, best case scenario, make conference championship game still. Worst case, maybe win 2 to 3 more games. Some people saying, hey, I don't think we'll make a bowl. Some people saying, hey, maybe 7 wins. So definitely mixed bag. I feel like that echoes kind of all of our thoughts. Wait and see. We could pick it back up, or it could really fall down.
Yeah, I saw this comment from Pat Kelly. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple different Pat Kellys. There's one that was a former Liberty football player, and there's one that is a Liberty fan. I'm not sure which one this is coming from. Doesn't really matter. But I think this was when I was talking earlier. Where do those 5 wins come from? FIU, Kennesaw State, Missouri State, the only ones I see. Again, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Like, I think Liberty has the ability after Old Dominion, which, I mean, we have the ability to beat Old Dominion too. We're just obviously 2 touchdown plus underdogs. But after that game, I think we have the ability to beat anybody on our schedule. We're not going to be a 16-point underdog against anybody else unless the wheels completely fall off and towards the end of the season. But like UTEP is going to be a winnable game. Like, we can win that game. Like, then you turn around, you play New Mexico State at home. That's a winnable game. Then you got Delaware and Missouri State at home. Both those teams have looked solid in their first year in the FBS. But again, they're in their first year in the FBS and you're at home. And, they're winnable games. Doesn't mean we're going to win them, but we could win. And you could win those 4 games in a row. And then we're not talking about getting to 6 wins. We're talking about how do you get a conference championship. FIU on the road, that's a winnable game. Delaware just beat them by 3 touchdowns. Kennesaw at home at the end of the season. Kennesaw is much improved, but like to think we'd be able to beat them. The La Tech game on the road certainly seems difficult, but honestly, in my book, like those 7 conference games, like 6 of the 7, even today, I think we're favored in if we're playing this weekend. La Tech being the lone exception.
Yeah, agreed.
Yankees fan says it all. Perfect. Continue on. 2 more, I feel like, overall topics we'll hit on. Next one is just generally NIL related. So what does this year teach us about recruiting and NIL spending? And then another one, maybe refresh us on the show of how much money is in the athletic budget along with NIL. How much of it is going towards the football team? John, don't know if you have any answers or anything there.
So I'll broadly say the NCAA has allowed schools to pay up to, is it 20.5 million? 21.5, 22.5?
21.5 sounds right.
21.5. Now, schools are able to earmark that money towards revenue share, not NIL, revenue share. There's still NIL opportunities. Schools have the ability to say, we are going to earmark 70% of this to football, 15% of this to men's basketball, and the rest are going to go to the other sports. So every school is doing it differently. Again, and I don't think I'm breaking any news or releasing any public information. Liberty is not spending $21.5 million on revenue share. I don't think there's a single G5 program that is spending $21.5 million on their revenue share. That is a lot of money to spend in athletics. When it comes to breakdowns, I'm going to be I don't know specifics off the top of my head. I do think it's going to be very interesting moving forward. And I've mentioned it before, maybe not on here, not to talk basketball, but you got to look at a school like Dayton that doesn't have an FBS football team, a school like Wichita State that, hey, maybe their bucket is $7.5 million. They're going to put almost all that money into basketball, which is going to be more than what UNC is putting into that bucket. Pass ball.
I don't care about this
Amen.
MLB Yankees. Keep it going.
So yeah, what was it? So it's gonna be very, very interesting. How you manage that money and the percentage to cliche as it is, make everyone happy. So I don't have specifics on how much is going to go to. Why did my TV just turn off? No, it's a commercial.
Because you need to focus.
Yeah, I know that. It's a sign. It's a sign. So I don't know what that looks like at Liberty. Obviously, football is what drives most athletic programs, and I can confidently say that football is the prime benefactor of revenue share at Liberty. Gets more money than the other schools. I couldn't tell you how much. I'm retired.
Yeah, I think the ratios you were using, 70 and 15 or whatever it was for football and men's basketball, is pretty accurate from what I've heard as far as Liberty's internal NIL. I think that was pretty close to what Flames Rising was doing, if I can remember correctly. But Liberty is paying every single student athlete. That's something Ian McCall has said. So whether you're on the women's tennis team or the men's basketball team or the swimming team or the football team, everybody's getting something. From what I've heard and know, and it's hard to know this right now because it's a new school year and a new way of doing things with the revenue sharing this year. So there's not a lot of public information out there. There wasn't a lot with the external NIL prior to this year, but from everything I've heard and know is that Liberty is in the top 10% of all G5 schools, maybe higher than that, maybe in the top 5 of all G5 schools as far as our NIL spending goes. So we're competitive. I don't think there's anybody else in Conference USA that's outspending us in NIL. I think there's very few, if any, Sunbelt teams that are outspending us in NIL. When you get to the American, it's probably a couple there that are outspending us. I think USF is putting a lot into their
USF,
teams. Yeah. Memphis has got a lot going there as well too. I'm sure Boise is up there as well too. Probably a couple of those Mountain West schools that are getting ready to go to the Pac-12 are up there too. But outside of those, I think we're right there with everyone.
Yeah, and no free ads. But if you would like to make a contribution to a school-specific sport or to NIL, shout out Flames Club. You were able to do that.
Flames Club and the Excellence Funds for eSport.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you're like, hey, I want to throw some extra money towards softball, you're able to do that.
Exactly. Yep. No, that's a great point. Thank you, Richie. So last one I feel like is just overall trajectory of where we're going. And it seems like a pretty dominant theme in the comments and even the comments tonight as well. So a couple here. On the positive side, somebody said almost feels like McKay's first year in Conference USA when we didn't tap into the portal. However, we quickly learned our lessons and bounced back the following year. Whereas other people somebody said if trajectory is at all important, Chadwell should be on the hot seat. And another person said, I think this is a year that could cripple our program for years to come. Also saw similar comments tonight saying hey, this could destroy recruiting for years to come. I don't know if destroy is a strong word. That's just what I'm using in this moment. So forgive me if I misquoted any of you. But this is going to destroy recruiting, or we have no chance of getting out of Conference USA because of the season or different things. So it seems like a very mixed bag. But how could this season not going well impact the long-term development of Liberty football and in Liberty athletics?
I just want to be clear that success on the field has very little to do with conference realignment. Cal and Stanford, UCLA, UTEP, La Tech, that's not, it's a piece of the puzzle. I'm not saying it's not, but the Big Ten didn't call Rutgers and Maryland because of their athletic programs, TV markets. Please, people, watch college football around the country. Don't just watch Liberty football. Watch Liberty football, but keep an eye on what's going on around the world. It's very, very interesting what's out there. No, I think that good recruiters can recruit. Charlotte got into the American. This is not. There's nothing. It has very little to do with play on the field. I think that down seasons happen across the country, across most teams, but that's the importance of recruiting, that you can get players say, hey, we are going to figure out a way that you could be a part of what turns us around to get us back to where we were. We have that over a lot of programs. We can say, hey, we've been to the top of the mountain at the G5 level. And when you're there, it's a lot easier to get back because there's a path. So yeah, you fall down the mountain, but when you fall, you create a path that shows you how to get back up. So yes, it can be detrimental, but I just think Liberty's brand, Liberty's mission, the things that make Liberty unique is always going to be something that it can be a positive, sometimes can be a negative, but I think it's going to be a positive for players.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Richie. I do think that athletic success does play a factor into realignment to a certain extent. And I think for Liberty, it might play into it a little bit more just because we have baggage, quote unquote, to overcome. So it's hard to move up to the American, for example, when you're going 4-8 in football. Like, let's just be honest. Whereas if you're going 10-2, 11-1, 13-1, whatever, you're a lot more attractive. And sometimes those presidents that are in those other conferences can overlook some of the baggage. And I guess the Yankees just scored. So
Yankees just won.
Yankees just glad he can lock back in.
I'll even turn the TV off.
Yeah, but anyways, I think that does play a factor in it. So in a trajectory, I kind of mentioned the trajectory a little bit earlier. It's not good, right? Like I said, that going 13-1, 8-4, and now we'll have to see where we end up this season. Like it's not a good trajectory, right? You want that to stop and turn around. But again, like the point about McKay is a valid point too, because there was a lot of people our first year in Conference USA that were ready to run McKay out the room. And McKay, needed to make changes. Like I thought he needed to make changes. I said, I don't know how much publicly I said it, but I know I said it to you guys offline, and maybe I did online some too. But he needed to make some changes and be more proactive in the portal, and needed to get more size and more length and more muscle in the paint and that sort of thing. And he did just that, and he made those changes. And the other thing that you look at our most successful sports on the mountain, men's basketball, softball are the two that kind of come to mind right off top of the head right now. Field hockey. I'm not as close to that program to know as much, but in covering
John, you made a shirt that said a field hockey school.
We are a field hockey school, and yes, I have that shirt. My daughter wears it every week. But anyways, men's basketball and softball, Dot Richardson, Coach McKay, and those two programs, what have they done that's kind of helped them get to that next level in their sports? I think they've completely bought into the Liberty culture, the Liberty mission, and they don't shy away from that. And I've seen comments this week where people are talking about how it's hard to get recruits on campus when you got the Liberty way to abide by and all that stuff. Well, there's people that would line up to come to Liberty and for what the school stands for and what it's all about. And Coach Richardson's bought into that 100%. Coach McKay has bought into that 100%. And I'm not saying Coach Chadwell has or hasn't. Like, he's a good mission fit. But you can attract people to your school for those reasons. But yeah, I mean, I think the trajectory is a fair point, and we need to see it turn around. But like I said earlier, I don't think that you can sit here and say after 3 seasons that it's time to kick him out the door and to move on. So we do need to see some changes, and I think Coach Chadwell has earned the right from what he did previously and what he's done here to try to make those changes.
Yeah, those are good points all around. I'll add a couple things tacking on to, I think, both to what both of y'all said, and then we can try to wrap this thing up. I know it's been a long show tonight. To what Richie said, yes, I do think TV markets, I know you mentioned that specifically, that was definitely and still is a very big deal to the conferences, probably one of the top things. I think a lot of the conferences, namely like the American, they probably won't say this, but I do think their last sect of realignment or whatever that was very, very heavily dominated and focused on TV market. Hence Charlotte, UAB, other schools like that getting into the American, and maybe I'm not saying we're in that list or anything, but maybe a reason why we're overlooked. But I do think that has shifted some because the conferences are seeing, well, our platform is getting lowered a bit because we have a Charlotte and a UAB and different. Exactly.
What a great addition.
So that being the case, I think that this next shift of realignment, yes, athletic results are going to matter, but it's all your sports, and it's also they look at the big picture, not the blip on the radar of a season, as well as it's the resources that you have at your school to hopefully back up your athletic programs, maybe how much you're putting into rev share and different things to see that, they're probably going in the right direction with athletics. And if that's the case because of the money they have, then that's going to help our conference with TV deals and different things and help our whole conference earn more money. And it's not just the TV markets. So just to be clear, I think it is a lot more than that, and something that Liberty is positioned well for this next lineup of realignment. So I think we're in a really good position there. The only other thing that I was going to say, if I can even remember my point in this moment, recruiting. I was going to talk about recruiting. I do think, yes, I think in the traditional sense of recruiting, like a down season like this, you could see the consequences of that 2 to 3 years down the line. In this day and age, you could make the argument, you'll see the consequences right away because a lot of guys could portal out. I would also argue that, hey, you could see a program turn around very quickly because of this day and age that we're in. So just because we have one bad year doesn't mean that we're now going to see long-term consequences. If anything, we're seeing schools that do horrible one year. They are doing amazing the next
Texas
year.
Tech.
I take a look at Texas Tech. I think about Ohio last year. Nobody thought they were going to be good. They brought in they lost their coach. They brought in only basically FCS talent or worse, D2 talent. Nobody thought they'd do anything, and they made it to I think they won the MAC potentially, or they're right up there at the top of it. So it's something that you can turn around your program really quickly. So I'm not concerned about long-term detriment in recruiting or anything else because of that. And also, like John mentioned, I think we have a leg up in a lot of ways in recruiting on certain players. Sure, we may miss out on a few players because of our mission, but we're now especially, we're not going to get into a cultural commentary or anything like that, but we're seeing more and more players want to come to Liberty and because of our mission and things like that. So I think that even helps mitigate some of the consequences of a bad season. So all that being said, I don't think this season would hurt our long-term trajectory. And I think we're positioned as a university to continue to rise in all of athletics.
Agreed. We went long. It happens. Such is life. But as always, we're so grateful that you're jumping in and whether you're tuning in live or you're checking us out later on, just appreciate you. Subscribe. If you are watching this on YouTube, a sea of red, all the great information just beyond the Tuesday nights. Old Dominion, Saturday, chance to turn things around heading into conference play. Win or lose, we will see you next Tuesday night. Go Flames.